Hi everyone, this is your last and final video for this quarter, and it's going to be about the tobacco cessation project, which is the pretty much the only project we have, and only that's not a study at Davis. And so, just a quick summary before we go over the project. The principal investigator is Amy Moulin, and the background is that tobacco is the leading cause of preventable deaths in the US, and ED patients have higher rates of tobacco use, and tobacco cessation in the ED have shown to be effective in tobacco cessation per previous studies. And it also has been shown that programs using pre-health students have been successful in linking ED patients to tobacco cessation resources. And so, just to go over it briefly, the Tobacco Cessation Project is a project, it's not a study, and so it doesn't have an IRB number. And so, when you're screening for a patient, you can't open their chart because we don't have an IRB. And so, it is an ongoing project that is carried out in the emergency department, and its goal is to increase the number of ED patients that are referred to the Tobacco Quitline service. This service is a free tobacco cessation service to which we refer patients or household members to help them quit smoking or vaping. And so not only patients can be referred to the quit line, it can also be anyone in the room that is interested in quitting tobacco, and as long as they're 18 and up. And so the quit line service provides free confidential services in multiple languages, which is English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Korean, and Mandarin. However, the in-person classes are only in English. It also provides experienced cessation counselors, which help train to help people who use tobacco to quit. And it also provides personalized quit plan tailored to them to help their individual needs. In addition, it provides self-help materials and social support as well as coping strategies. So the steps to enroll someone in the Tobacco Cessation Project is to first screen for patients who qualify for the study. And so this is going to be anyone who's 18 and up unless they meet exclusion criteria. So this can also be, for example, even in a PEDS patient pod where the PEDS patients won't qualify, their parents will qualify if they're 18 and up. And so you are able to approach those patients as long as they're not meeting any of the exclusion criteria. And so this includes 5150 patients, patients in critical condition, and anything that would be deemed non-approachable would be exclusion criteria. And so once you've made a list of these patients who possibly qualify for the study, you're going to check with the nurse that the patient is approachable, and then you can approach the patient. So I just want to briefly outline what it looks like for a patient approach. And so first, once you enter the room, you're going to introduce yourself and ask them if they have time to answer a few questions. If they say yes, let them know that we are approaching all patients in the ER and ask if they happen to use tobacco products. So this is really important. The language you use here is really important, and to use person-centered language. You don't want to say smokers, you don't want to say users. You want to ask them if they use tobacco products. You also want to emphasize that we are approaching all patients in the ER so they don't feel singled out and they're not feeling like they are being targeted for these questions. If they say no, you can thank them for their time and leave. However, if they say yes to using tobacco products, you're going to hand them an iPad, which has a survey component, and the patient will be asked to fill out this survey. So this survey can be found in the same iPad that has the QI resident evaluations, and there will be a link inside that. For those of you who haven't been able to go into the ER, this might sound a bit confusing, but you will be getting like in-person training to know how to use this survey within the iPad. Just a bit more information about the survey. It will require the patient's MRN, which is medical record number, which must be entered before approaching the patient. And so you can obtain this MRN without entering the patient's chart, which is important because, again, this is not a study, it's a project, so we're not allowed to enter the patient's chart. And so you're going to right click on the patient's name and then press print forms. And that's how you're able to obtain the patient's MRN without entering their chart. Because if you enter their chart when it's not a study, that would be a HIPAA violation. In addition to handing them the survey, you're going to ask them if they want to be referred to the UC Davis Quit line, which offers in-person health classes, smoking cessation, nicotine lozenges, quit kits, which I also talked about earlier. And if they are interested in being referred to this, it can be filled out in their discharge orders through a referral slip. And again, at any time, if they say no to any of these questions or are not interested, that's completely fine. Just say thank you for their time and leave. And you can also, we have business cards which talk about the UC Davis Quit line, and you can always offer that to them instead of having to fill out anything. And so now I'm going to go over person-centered language again, because it's really important that as we talk to patients in the ER and in just our daily lives, that we focus on using person-centered language and really make sure that we're conscious of the language you're using, especially in certain spaces. And so person-centered language, it's the type of language that emphasizes the person and does not define someone by their disability, a substance use disorder, mental illness, or etc. And so on the right here, there is a couple of examples of person-centered language. And so, for example, instead of saying addict, you want to say a person with a substance use disorder. Or instead of saying mentally ill, you want to say a person with a mental illness. And other examples other than the ones that are on here, which you can read at your own time. Oops. 1 second. And so other examples is, for example, instead of saying someone who is autistic, you can say someone who has autism or someone who's on the spectrum. And that's just another example. And another one is, instead of saying someone's who's calling someone homeless, you would say a person who's experiencing homelessness. And so those are just a few examples, and there's more detailed in this diagram right here. And so for this specific study, instead of asking someone if they're a user or a smoker, ask if they use tobacco products. And so this is especially important because you don't want to define someone by if or if not they use tobacco products. And this also comes in other forms. So don't use positives or say good if they respond that they don't use tobacco products, and also vice versa. So don't say a negative or say something bad if they say they do use tobacco products. It's important to not only use person-centered language, but also use neutral language and not say whether something's good or whether something's bad. And so why is it important? Feel free if you want to pause the video to think about this, because this is also going to be a question that you're asked in the quiz, and something I want to see you use in your own words, not just what I'm discussing here. And so this isn't a comprehensive list of why using person-centered language and neutral language is important, but it's just a few examples of emphasizing like why it's important to use, especially when we're working in the ER. And so person-centered language emphasizes the individual, and it also demonstrates respect and helps prevent stereotypes from forming. It also acknowledges that this is just one aspect of an individual's life and it doesn't define them. A person should not be like defined by an aspect of themselves, whether that's their home status, whether that's whether or not they use any uh, drug or tobacco products. And so it's important that you are focusing the words on the person and their individuality, and not the like separate aspects that shouldn't define them as a person. And so also this language can be very stigmatizing and deficit based and create a barrier between individuals and make them feel like they're being judged. It can put a negative connotation on smoking tobacco, and this can lead for patients to be less receptive to want to be enrolled in the quit line. And again, like the whole point of this project is that we increase enrollment of people and individuals to the quit line, and so they have these resources to quit smoking or quit using tobacco products if that's what they want to do. And it's just to be able to like provide as many people with these resources. However, at the end of the day, each individual is unique and it's up to their personal preference what they want to be called or what language they want to be used. So even though um, we are wanting you to use person-centered language, and it's really important that you're aware of the language you're using, at the end of the day, each individual, it's up to them what they want to be called or how they want to be referred to by. And so just keep in mind this is obviously an outline and what you should keep in mind, but um, each experience is unique and individual. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this presentation. There will be a couple more questions to ask just to go over what we went through. But I hope this was informative, and I hope you are able to take away this knowledge next time you are in the ER or just in your day to day life. Okay, thank you.